Welcome to Majjistral Nature and History Park. This is where I'm starting your virtual walk. Park visitors especially like this viewpoint because of the turquoise colour of the Mediterranean Sea. This area is called Il-Majjistral in Maltese. The word Irdum is used to describe this spectacular landscape found along the northwest coast of Malta. It consists of sheer cliffs, blue clay slopes and boulder scree at the base. The word Majjistral is thought to come from Italian meaning land left to rest. The most exposed geological formation found at Majjistral Park is the Upper Coralline Limestone, which is the youngest layer of the Maltese geological sequence. It formed approximately 6 million years ago from the deposits of marine sediments and the skeletal remains of marine plants and creatures. One of the characteristics of this particular limestone is that it has deep joints which weaken it. Loose particles of rock and soil accumulate in these joints, and together with vegetation growth, this further contributes to their widening. The top layer of geology is undercut by the softer underlying geological formations of green sand and blue clay, which are easily weathered. This process also destabilizes the cliff face and causes large boulders to slide down the cliff to form boulder scree, which in turn protect the coast from further erosion. I am now going to start the descent below the cliffs. Just then you could hear two birds, the chirping of the Spanish sparrow and bursts of song from the blue rock thrush. Some of the birds you can often hear down below the cliffs are many of the park's resident birds, the Spanish sparrow, the Sardinian warbler, the Zitting cisticola, and of course the blue rock thrush, which is Malta's national bird. The area below these cliffs is a very important habitat for animals since it's not accessed very frequently by humans. It's also an important habitat for plants as the blue clay slopes retain moisture and contain natural springs, so the plants that grow here remain quite green all year round. One of the many plants that thrives here is the Maltese spurge. This is one of Malta's endemic plants, which means it is only found on the Maltese Islands. It has bright yellow flowers from winter to spring when it fills the air with a smell of honey. After flowering, the leaves turn red, which is happening at the moment, as you can see. The leaves will eventually be shed to reduce water loss in the hot summer, and the cycle will start again later in the year. This is a cave dwelling, which used to be lived in until quite recently, but now it is simply being used for storage by a local farmer. This majestic carob tree is a delight to look at. It must be incredibly old. Carob trees are archaeophytic, which refers to a plant species that is not native to a region, but which was introduced in ancient times. It is thought that the carob tree was introduced to Malta at least 500 years ago and is now considered one of our native trees. It It is common and evergreen, and only the females produce flowers and carob pods. The shade of the trees, especially in the summer heat, is very much appreciated, but I would just like to show you the view from this spot. The colours of the plants against the deep blue sky often stop me in my tracks. This plant covered in yellow flowers is called Sicilian silver ragwort. Its leaves are white on the underside and are often folded inwards in hot weather to conserve water. It is common and sub-endemic, as it is found in Malta but also in neighbouring islands like Sicily and Lampedusa. The bird you can hear is the Zitting cisticola, previously known as the fan-tailed warbler, because it likes to fan its tail out. It is tiny and is in fact Malta's smallest breeding bird, but it is still very loud and letting people know they are in its territory. I am just going to make my way through this passage of reeds. The pathway along the blue clay slopes is definitely not for the faint-hearted, but the views are amazing. Yes, that was a bird that just flew across in front of me. Here it is in slow motion. It is a male nightjar which seemed to be having a drink at a natural spring. These are two boathouses. The one furthest away was not always a boathouse, but a room built by the British military who used the area of the park as a military base between 1918 and 1979. The small room and bay it overlooks were used for the delivery of supplies for the soldiers that were based here. This bridge isn't for the faint-hearted either. Here is another tree, the Aleppo pine, a tree which has needle-shaped leaves which are tough, don't dry out and will not easily fall off in high winds. They also do not need much water to survive, making them quite suitable to the climate in Malta. I am now going to start the ascent into the cliffs. The holes in between boulders are the perfect habitat, offering homes and hiding places for plenty of animals. This includes the wild rabbit, Malta's largest land mammal, which was introduced a long time ago from mainland Europe and is today considered part of Malta's natural fauna. I can also often hear rustling in the vegetation as I walk past, which is most probably the ocellated skink. This reptile has very small legs, but it mainly moves by sliding its body in a snake-like fashion. Its favourite habitat is rubble walls, which provide sunning areas as well as bolt holes to escape to when danger appears. Like many reptiles, it retires for the cooler months and hibernates in dark sheltered cracks. It emerges in spring to feed on small invertebrates like beetles, spiders and snails. The skink breeds during the spring, with females bearing up to 20 live young skinks. It is so lovely to watch this butterfly called the Mediterranean brimstone. The male has bright yellow wings with an orange patch. The butterfly's wings are almost the same colour as this yellow-horned poppy, which seems to be colonising more areas in Majjistral Park recently. Lots of rubble walls start to appear here, some built along the tops of giant boulders. It is difficult to find out how many years they have been here for, since rubble walls have been used for centuries and are still used today to show land ownership, offer shelter to humans, animals and trees, as well as to create field terracing. A historical feature up on the cliff itself is a lookout post cut into the rock by the British military. It can be entered from the cliff down some rock-cut stairs, and you can look out onto the landscape I am standing in at the moment. This area is known as Ras el-Wahsh in Maltese, which literally translates to head of horror, but I am assuming that in this case it means the head of a cliff, and that the name refers to the sheerness of the cliffs. There are so many interesting landscape features down here, it is difficult to know where to look. Some boulders are interesting to examine from a geological perspective. The appearance of layers shows the conditions of the sea all those millions of years ago. On this boulder there are the remains of a girna. Girna is the Maltese name for the corbelled stone huts that you usually come across when walking in the countryside, but this one is in quite a different spot. These structures are much more common in the north of Malta than in southern areas. There are 30 of them within the Majjistral Park boundaries. A few of them are found below the cliffs, some built underneath or in between boulders. These huts were used to store farming tools and provided farmers or goat herds with shelter from the weather. They may also have been lived in. Dating these structures is difficult since the method of construction has not changed over thousands of years, with some that might have been built in prehistoric times and others that have been built in the 20th century. Next to this hut there is also a well or cistern with 2 water channels cut into the rock. Whoever lived here had a great view of the Mediterranean Sea. You can see the rest of the northern coast of Malta, and beyond that the island of Gozo. This is where the evidence of past human activity starts to become even more intriguing. Unfortunately, we do not know very much about these structures, but it is fun to stand here and imagine, in the sheltered shade and coolness that the cliffs and boulders provide, surrounded by the smell of Mediterranean wild thyme and listening to the occasional bursts of song from the blue rock thrush. Could this archway and rock-cut stairs be evidence of a mysterious civilization that was fully dependent on the coast for its livelihood? Or was it how our ancestors hid from the Maltese Islands' historic invaders? This is the wild artichoke, which has vibrant purple flowers clustered on large round spiny heads. These plants have fruits with tufts of hairs which are dispersed by the wind. They are a common plant with flowers from spring to early summer. I am now at the end of the tour, as this is where I will leave this magical place behind and go back up to the top of the cliff. This rock-cut stairway is called Menzel in Maltese. Interestingly, the word Menzel is defined as a landing place in a Maltese dictionary, but the word Menzel is defined as descended, which explains why it is used to refer to stairways. There are 3 of these old stairways within the park that have been cut into the rock face at the top of the cliff and are thought to have been the way that the structures down below were accessed. I will now leave you in peace to enjoy a view of the sunset.